with members of the other party if you are elected. Free for all.
You mean the Green?
Yeah, the Green Party. Yeah.
So what I do all day on my day job, my side hustle, is I talk people into doing things that they don't want to do. I am a negotiator. I am a person that gets things done on the job by having lengthy conversations with people about how it benefits them. When we pick up the 9 seats that will turn the Texas House into a Democratic chamber, it'll be a little bit easier, but I will not use our newfound power to crush the opposition, but rather work with them on things that benefit us all, appeal to their better nature, help them to understand how what we're trying to accomplish is not just what the voters want and what the voters sent us to Austin to do, but also beneficial for the people of Texas. So I am just Pollyanna enough to believe that that's going to work.
Yeah, I recognize to begin with that as a representative of House District 92, I will represent a mix of Republicans, Democrats, and some libertarians in the mix there. We have a couple. So it's critical to approach legislating from the perspective of listening, being willing to listen to the voices of everyone and try to find pragmatic solutions that focus on the most pressing issues that affect the common good in all of us. And I've been very blessed. I've had tremendous mentors in my life that I've learned how to do that from. When I worked with Senator Whitmire through a regular session and then 3 special sessions back in 2005, how he navigated his efforts to deal with criminal justice reform, public education issues. Funny how we're talking about the same thing, 13 years ago. I saw that there's ways to work with the opposing party, to be strong yet fair, and try to find practical solutions. I do that every day as a lawyer. I generally get along with my opposing counsel.
Sorry. Please hold up your cards so some nice, charming person will pick them up. And finally, party building. There's this. Oh, party building. This is a great soliloquy right here. This is the preamble to the Texas Democratic Party platform. Texas Democrats believe government exists to achieve together what we cannot achieve as individuals. Government must serve all people. Representative democracy is only truly representative if every single citizen is guaranteed the inalienable right to vote in fair and open elections. This is not part of the platform. Elections and campaigns come and go. Party building based on shared values and ideals remain. What have you done to build and sustain our party?
That's a really good preamble. So I've been working to build a party in this neck of Tarrant County for almost 10 years now. I have walked, I have written postcards, I have canvassed my neighbors. I have been fighting for democracy in this community since way before it was cool to do so. And I'm going to continue to do that. Now, there's always a risk as a party builder that you're going to alienate some people. I believe it's our role as Democrats to show our best natures to the world and to show the people of this community how we can improve their lives. It's funny to me, we have, Crystal and I have a close friend who said, oh, I'm a conservative, I've always been a conservative, since I was born. My parents trained me. We said, okay, well there's this online test you can take that, asks you a bunch of questions, and you take the test, and at the end it tells you how conservative or liberal you are. She took the test and came back and said, turns out I was wrong. All my life, I'm a liberal. So yeah, you've got my vote. And I think that that's true of a lot of people, that they assume what we stand for before they know what we stand for.
My party building activities have been at a variety of levels. And one of the first things that I did when I came back to this community from my travels and work and service overseas and across the country was to use my legal skills to help the party. So when there has been a Democrat who's had some sort of a political legal issue, I have been the person across Tarrant County that the Democrats have come to. Sometimes that's been public. In those cases, you can read about them if you're so interested. Sometimes it's been behind the scenes. But what I've done is use my legal skills to make sure that the Democratic Party can push back the attacks from outside forces. I referenced earlier voting rights. That's another area where, unfortunately, voting rights should be a bipartisan issue, but sadly, recently, it's not always been that way. And so I've worked with the Democratic Party here in this community at polling locations across Tarrant County to fight for democratic voting rights and to make sure that people aren't intimidated from engaging in the franchise.
I'm thrilled to say that we are now taking audience questions, and I am randomly choosing from these, so do not scream at me afterward if something was not answered. Scream at them, because that's what you're working on. This is a really good one. Today is Climate Action Day. What will you do in Austin to promote renewable energy, including insulation, new window installations, geothermal, wind and solar energy?
Obviously, we talked earlier about the importance of saving our planet, saving our democracy. So I would be in support of promoting policies that encourage those sort of renewable energy and energy-saving concepts. All of those that the question references are things that I'd be in support of. And whether that's through education programs, encouraging some sort of incentives for communities, but also at the bigger scale. I think there's a lot of possibilities with our electric grid, thinking that the future about our wind power in the state, how we move energy that's developed in renewable resources, how we store that energy. And that's the kind of stuff that the legislature has the power to promote. And imagine the day when we're able to really store and use renewable energy and all this wind and solar power that we have the potential. So yes, I would support programs that promote renewable energy and energy efficiency.
As would I. So I believe in, as I talked about, the solar panel freedom bill that allows people to install solar panels. I would take it further and put in subsidies for the state to allow people to install solar panels. They have subsidies for solar panels in Massachusetts. We're a little more sunny here. So I would absolutely support doing that. In addition, what we have right now are individuals doing the best they can to reduce their carbon footprint, and yet the majority of the carbon is not coming from individuals. It's coming from corporations. We need to find a way to tax the carbon emissions of major corporations in such a way that it will reduce those emissions. Folks, they're not going to do it on our own. It's upon us to move them in that direction.
After getting up and close with the campaign finance process, what are your views on approaching campaign finance reform in Texas?
Not a fan. So campaign finance, I think, needs a complete overhaul. The fact that the two of us have to spend the amount of money, to raise the amount of money and spend the amount of money that is required to win an election in this state, or even for an office that, how much does it pay? Like $800? Something like that. $7,200 a year, so, and a per diem. So I think that it absolutely needs to be overhauled. I believe that each candidate at each level, and this is probably a federal thing, I don't know if we can do this at a state level, should be given an amount, and everybody should be held to that amount, and it should be consistent and across the board. I don't see that that is ever going to happen, so I'm going to keep raising money, and if any of you here like what I have to say, I'd love a contribution. But until we get campaign finance reform, this is what we must do. It is incumbent upon us to do so, and I'm ready, willing, and able.
Yeah, sadly, I'll have to say ditto on the contribution part. It's just it's the nature of things as they are. The Supreme Court did us wrong on Citizens United. I mean, when you have a ruling that says that money can flow in the way that they've suggested, I mean, that puts us in a tough position. Our system was already broken, that we have this amount of money that floods into it. I know there are certain sectors that benefit from all this money flowing around, but I don't think it's the people. Frankly, it embarrasses me that we have to raise this money and I've got to spend it because I want to serve. You know, just like I wanted to serve in uniform, just like I want to serve as a pro bono lawyer, I want to serve you, and I'm offering myself up to you. All my skills, all my experience. If you want me, choose me. I get it if you don't. I mean, frankly, this is the system. But if we have to put all this money into it, is that what our system should be? No.
I love this energy in this question. Free community college education. What kind of requirements for students? That was so, whoever that is, really great.
So I would want to make sure that anyone had access to it, so the requirement should be not that you get a certain grade level, because that has been shown statistically to punish students who are of lower economic strata, because they frequently have to work in addition to going to school. The requirements that I would put in place for free community college would be that you show consistent progress in your studies and that you are constantly working towards your degree.
I agree. I like seeing, again, back to what we talked about earlier, I like seeing these partnerships between our schools and our community colleges. I would encourage more of that. I would encourage that that's a great way to provide 2 years of community college at no charge, and if we can give that at the secondary level, fantastic. And I agree that we shouldn't have these grade caps for students. We all know, I don't know about y'all, but it depends on when you bloom in school. Now, I would be open to some service. I think we should inspire service. So if you're in the community colleges and you also get an opportunity to do some volunteer time in your community at the same time, that'd be a great way to give back and to pay in sweat equity. And I think that that's something we could encourage, and it would help everybody.
Private prisons, we don't need them. What's your take?
I agree, we don't need them. Yeah, private prisons, the privatization, this obsession of privatizing everything is driving profit into the hands of a very few, and it's incentivizing us to make our rules stricter and more punitive. Steve talked about the school to prison pipeline. You couple that with private prisons, and that's a recipe for disaster. So, no, I would not be in support of private prisons.
Yes, we do not need private prisons. So you are incentivizing a corporation to incarcerate people. We as a state need to focus more on education and less on incarceration. The thing that cracks me up about privatization every time is that everybody says, oh, it's going to be cheaper, they're more efficient. If we give it from the government to a corporation to manage this public need, it will be cheaper. Here's the fact of the matter. The government is doing a service for free. Let's say the service costs $100. If you turn it over to a private corporation, there is something called a profit motive. That corporation is going to require 12% additional. So when you privatize something, you're either going to be paying 12% more to a different entity, or you're getting a 12% crappier product. It's that simple. So the idea behind privatization, especially with prisons, so the things that we should never privatize are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are in the Constitution. Life is healthcare, liberty is prisons, the pursuit of happiness is our educational system. And
Oh, this is great. I still have to keep this to a minute, though. What issues are important to you that we haven't discussed so far? Do you need like a second? I can totally just like filibuster up here.
Yes. I got it.
You good, Jeff? Already?
Awesome, that's good. Go run with it.
So let's talk about gerrymandering. The thing that bothers me the most about our political climate currently is that we are moving further and further apart as Americans, that we no longer interact with each other. We have demonized the other side to such a degree that we can no longer interact with anybody of a different political party than us. And the reason for that is gerrymandering. When you create districts that are only going to send a Republican or only going to send a Democrat to a legislative body, what you're doing is ensuring that that political tribalism will continue. People are getting further and further apart. We have a once-in-a-generation opportunity in 2021 to redraw the maps in such a way that they are competitive. And I will fight to do that because I believe that will begin to heal our democracy. When we can no longer speak to each other, where are we headed as a country? So that's something that I feel very
Today is Transgender Day of Remembrance. And if you look at the last few sessions, maybe a lot more than the last few, there's clearly an ongoing effort to either creatively attack the LGBT community, our brothers and sisters around us, or to right-on, head-on attack them. And I can tell you, as a military officer, as a lawyer for indigent clients, when somebody comes at the vulnerable, or they come at people for being who they are, there's nothing that gets my blood up more than that. So I think as a legislator, we have to be ready to go down to Austin, and when people make an attack on a community because of who they are, we have to be bold. We have to be ready to fight. Because that sort of rhetoric, that sort of hate, that's the kind of stuff that I saw as a war crimes prosecutor. I know that it's a few steps separated, but when you start to dehumanize, you're dehumanizing all of us.
I hate to ruin the love fest between y'all, but on which issues do you disagree with the other candidate?
Yeah, I mean, we're early in the campaign, and I might not have studied everything that Steve's put out in great detail that I should. I will say that when it comes to the issue of guns, I feel like that's a topic, and I don't know exactly what his position is on that, but I feel like we are in a community here, especially with Stickland having been in office, where that issue is going to be bantered around and used as a weapon by the other side, literally, right? I mean, Jeff Kaysen and all the rest of them. So I think that's a point where we have to be bold and not equivocate. We're going to support background checks, red flag laws, and we're not going to say, well, Democrats can't take a stance on that. Yes, Democrats, we can take a stand on this issue. We can be strong, and we actually have to.
I'm going to disagree with Jeff's disagreement on my position. I actually said, if y'all roll the tape back, you will be able to see this. I said, universal background checks, red flag laws, a limit on ballistics, as well as rate of fire and capacity of ammunition. So these are not wishy-washy standards, these are bold standards. I will be attacked for these standards. I will still stand up for these standards because it's important to me. My position on these laws is very firm. So second part, where do I disagree with Jeff? So Jeff's page on education has an entire statement about the value of education. Nowhere in that statement does it have the word public, and that concerns me. So I don't know what Jeff's position is on voucher programs for private schools or on charter schools or any of that. I believe that all of our education dollars as a state should be going to public education.
Last question. Well, solve that.
Yeah, drop that out there.
So
Yeah, that makes it really easy for everybody in the room.
Unfortunately, only one of y'all can win the primary. Do you pledge to support the other candidate?
Absolutely.
100%.
Now, you have 1 minute to both give your closing remarks.